This episode is brought to you by Farmers Insurance.
A massive explosion rocks a warehouse in the Moscow region. Dozens of people are injured. The cause of the blast is not yet known. Nigeria is dealt another wave of sanctions following the coup in the country, as neighbouring Nigeria adds to the list of restrictions already slapped on Niamey by the ECOWAS West African bloc. And also ahead.
These T-90 tanks, Russia calls the best in the world. So obviously it's a much desired prey for Ukraine's artillery.
As the Ukraine conflict rages on, Russian troops push forward in the Lugansk Republic, using third-generation tanks as a key weapon in the advance. Live from
US-based customer service team can help find one that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Some things just make you feel more alive than others. Like the rush of adrenaline from an SUV that roars from 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. Jaguar delivers that thrill every day. The F-Pace, how Jaguar makes an SUV.
Will Turkey ratify Sweden's NATO membership? Stockholm says it can't fulfill all Ankara's demands. As the bloc's membership requires unanimous approval, what would make Turkey change its mind? And what does all of this mean for NATO's future? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Mohammed Jamjoom. One of the many fallouts of Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been that previously neutral Nordic countries...
All right, so now let's do a little sound test. We're going to start off at max volume. Make sure you got your headphones on. Here we go. Okay, now I'm going to start the song over. This time, let's try it with extra bass. Here we go. Okay, now you could definitely hear the difference with the extra bass. Let's try another song. All right, so I dimmed the lights so we can see how the speaker looks in party mode. And of course, we got to try out the karaoke mic. All right, here we go.
Yeah, DJ Cringe, back in the building once again. We got that new Flossy track by my nephew Young 8, Chase Fetty. Let's get it going.
Yeah, Trapper. Shout out to the Google gangsters. Yo, feel like Floss with this new tech. This ain't Mortal Kombat, but you next. Shout out YouTube, got a few checks. Cartier frames, got some new specs.
Look, this red M5 fast as a cheetah. This package is meager. Stuffing bass in back of the speakers. I got a new phone, but wish I was still trapping with Beavers. This dude real, but started singing on wax like Aretha.
Yo, never mind that M5, got a new beam. I might get it dirty, but it's too clean. I told Floss years ago, got a new team. I might need another phone for this new scheme.
I might need this new cream for this new play. A couple yams in a pot, that's a souffle. This PlayStation's on the block for like 2K. This verse dumb, it hit hard, Bobby Boucher.
Ah, for real, man. Yo, shout outs White Shoes, you heard?
DJ Cringe.
Flossy. Mandatory.
Trap, what up,
Trap.
baby?
Available for all parties.
Chase. What up?
Flossy Entertainment. Shout out to all 2 million subscribers. We appreciate everybody in the comment section. We're gonna keep giving y'all these products, man. Keep tapping in.
DJ Cringe, you know how we do it. Alright, so y'all see the karaoke mic works just fine. This is my DJ voice. Turn my mic up, turn my mic up. DJ Cringe, available for all parties. Give me about 555-1212.
All right, so now let's check the buttons on the top. You got play and pause.
Got a few checks.
You got skip and reverse tracks. Of course, the big volume knob.
Yeah.
Your extra bass button. And the RGB lights button. Okay, so all of the buttons work. Now you have the USB-A on the back, so if you want to charge up a phone, just plug in a USB cable, plug in your phone, and there it is. Charge them right up. All right, so here's the top of the speaker. You got a better view of your carrying handle. You got a little slot right here for a tablet or a phone. You got your mic and guitar inputs, 1/4-inch apiece. You got your guitar volume. You got line in and line out, 3.5 millimeter. You got your echo controls. You got the power button, play and pause, skip and reverse tracks. There's your RGB lights, your extra bass button, your Bluetooth pairing button. You got the mic volume and your system volume. And you also got 5 LED lights. All right, so now let's do a little sound test. Maximum volume, bass boost turned off. Here we go. All right, so now let's try another song with bass boost turned on. All right, so I dimmed the lights so you can see some of the different RGB light patterns, and I also plugged in the mic so we can test out karaoke. Now, on a side note, this one does have a lot more echo with the mic. You got to hear it for yourself. Now, let me back up so there's no feedback. All right, here we go.
DJ Craig, back in the building. I got another song for my nephew. One track heavy. Let's go.
Yo, I got a question for you. Yo, how many times you knew I was checking for you? How many? Put it on the line, grab the weapon for you. For real, I was front line, I was repping for you. Trapper, came by myself, I was stepping for you. Trapper, turned the L to a lesson for you. Cash, turned one night to a blessing for you. You didn't think I'd do something special for you, but I wouldn't do nothing special unless it's for you. Back, and that's the thing about it. And I can't sleep at night when I think about it. These niggas think they got it, but I really got it. These niggas think they profit, but I really profit. I done left the town, got it really poppin'. These niggas window shot when I'm really copping. I'm from the city where niggas be milli rockin'. I might pull up in 650s with silly options. What's the mathematics? Would you still stick around if I ain't have cabbage? Would you come to my shows if I rapped average? Except on my flaws and my bad habits. Heal all my wounds from the backstabbings. And never be someone who would backstab me. Never. Ready for that ride in the black caddy. My son, one son, tell him ask daddy. He'll be mad happy. But I'm just trying to chill and twist the line. Catch stunts in my 745. Driving me crazy, shorty. Just wanna see you and feel real. But if I post this little bitch on my close friends, you ask about it and I act like I got no sense. Spend on me, or would you spend for me? How deep is our love if that's what it takes me to creep in the club? This shit beneath me, I still reach from above. The old me would've reached for the glove. I'm just playing, yeah, you know what I'm saying. But oh no, when it's over, I just hope that you stand. Because girl, easy to love me now. You'll leave you crazy. You love me if I was down and out, but you still have love for me.
DJ Craig, you know how I do. Available for all parties and barbecues. 555-1212. Let's go.
Now, for the microphone, you don't have to have all that crazy echo. You can have it like this.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Or you can add some more echo. There we go. If you want to be like DJ Craig. Let's go.
Now, here's the buttons on the top. You got play and pause. Skip and reverse tracks. And of course, your volume. All of the buttons work. Now, if you want to charge up a cell phone, all you got to do is plug in a cable to the USB-A out, grab your phone, plug it in, and it's charging right up. All right, so now let's do a quick side-by-side with the XL and the double XL, just so you can hear the difference. We'll start off with the XL.
Yo, sound test, time for sound test. Everybody shut your mouth, time for sound test. Time to test that quality of sound test. How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? Does it sound big? Does it sound loud?
How's the bass, baby? How's the treble on it? How's it sound now? How's it sound now?
That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. Sound test. That's a sound test, baby. That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. How's the sound on that shit? God damn it, holla.
All right, here's the double XL.
Yo, sound test, time for sound test. Everybody shut your mouth, time for sound test. Time to test that quality of sound test. How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound, Floss? How's it sound now? How's it sound now? Does it sound big? Does it sound loud?
How's the bass, baby? How's the treble on it? How's it sound now? How's it sound now?
That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. Sound test. That's a sound test, baby. That's a sound test. That's a motherfucking sound test. How's the sound on that shit? God damn it, holla.
Okay, so you hear it for yourself. The double XL is louder and has more bass. Let's do that one more time. Here's the XL.
How's the sound? White shoes, how's the sound on it? How's the sound, baby? That's a sound test.
Here's the double XL.
How's the sound? White shoes, how's the sound on it?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Rabier. Let's wrap this up. All right.
Since the PC inception of the granddaddy of all first-person shooters known as Wolfenstein 3D, there are many games that followed in its footsteps, some even gaining just as much popularity, such as Doom and Quake. The influence of such games allowed the run-and-gun first-person shooter genre to take root in the lexicon of gamers worldwide, but there are some that have slipped through the cracks and onto systems that are not known for FPSs. One of these games is set to the tune of, Terminator meets Alien. Well, pretty much any action movie you see on one of those Spike TV marathons. It's Zero Tolerance for the Sega Genesis, developed by Technopop and published by Accolade. Humanity has decided to take its imperialistic ways to the next level, and is now colonizing the solar system, and a hostile alien race is making trouble for them by destroying equipment and killing and transforming the crew of the flagship Europa 1. A barrage of gunfire has also damaged the nuclear cooling system, which means you're on the clock the whole game, before the whole ship goes kablooey.
Handgun collected.
Thus, the Planet Defense Corps get on the horn and dial Zero Tolerance, 5 space commandos each with different abilities. They're made up of Captain Scott Cycle Hale, Captain Satoe Soba Ishii, Major J.J. Wolf, Major Tony Weasel Ramos, and the Great Dane himself, Major Thomas Bass Gyrup. Don't worry, you'll be reminded of their names often, since the HUD is mostly map, weapon loadout, and ID card. This is probably my least favorite aspect about Zero Tolerance, which is certainly an entertaining first-person shooter in the style of Doom or Quake, but in a lower definition from what a PC could handle in 1994. It's like peering through a cardboard box, allowing for less peripheral vision and more surprise attacks from your enemies.
Handgun collected.
But if you're the type that can take lemons and make them into lemonade, you will use the map in order to improve your aim, since the blip in the center of your map also shows your line of sight, which you can use to line up with the red dots that are, in fact, your enemies.
Handgun collected.
In my opinion, Zero Tolerance is actually more difficult in the beginning than towards the end, where you will come into control of more powerful weapons. Zero Tolerance is fun to play, but only if you have the patience and perseverance to get used to the sensitive movement controls, and the small aperture you're given to keep an eye on your enemies.
Handgun collected. Handgun collected. Ammunition is low.
Nigerians and then some other Africans around the continent on the position of ECOWAS, on this school. Some saying
Alright, so setting off here in the 2023 Integra. So the first thing you notice about this, well, you have a really nice low seat in the 350 F Sport handling package. So this one, doesn't have any hybridization or anything like that. I will be sampling all the different powertrains here, so stay tuned for all the different, powertrains for this vehicle. But as far as this one goes, right off the line here, it's nice and responsive, good throttle response, good braking response. Everything just feels very natural, very easy as far as driving goes. Visibility is also great. The nice, pretty thin A-pillars. I like it, again, they're further back here, so you have a great view forward. Hood drops down nicely now that it's even lower than before. And view out of the back is also great. And you also have a camera rearview mirror as an option now if you'd like to give you an even better view if you have, people in the back seat there that normally would block your view. And otherwise, so here for the F Sport handling and for the F Sport performance, you do get adaptive dampers here. So that will change depending on the drive mode and of course the road conditions as well. So we're just in the normal mode currently, just cruising through a winery here at very low speeds. But the ride is very smooth, and I already spent about an hour riding in one of these previously, and it's really comfortable. It's really smooth, exactly how you would expect, a luxury crossover to feel. And if you want an even softer ride, you can go for a non-F Sport version of an RX, and those softer suspension setups you're going to have in the hybrid, and the regular 350 will certainly give you an even smoother ride if that's something you're looking for. But right off the bat here, let's turn down onto this back road here and see how the 350 performs. And here we go. Response. Nice strong engine. So one of the big things here with the 350 is the brand new engine that it gets. So it now runs a 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. It does 275 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. And while that horsepower is down by 20, the torque is up by 52 pound-feet. So you get a nice extra shove there from this turbo engine, even though you are down a little bit on horsepower and cylinder count. In reality, you will have a very punchy vehicle. It still does a 7.2 seconds 0 to 60, which isn't mind-blowing or anything, but still very solid performance. One thing though about this engine is it now does require premium gas. The regular RX previously with the V6 you could run regular, now premium is required. Most of the other competitors run turbo engines as well that also require premium, so not a huge differentiator here, but just worth noting if you're used to the old RX, you are going to have to now run premium. And I'm going to put it up into sport mode here and see how the response is in this mode. Here we go. Okay, still a little bit of a slow response. The main holdup here is the 8-speed automatic, which doesn't immediately understand that I want to get full performance until a split second or so later after it's kind of thought it through. But it's a good amount of punch still nonetheless. And this 8-speed auto, is pretty responsive overall. I will go ahead and try out the manual shifting here. See how that does. Okay, downshift's pretty quick so far. All right, upshifts. Alright, it has a mind of its own. It actually didn't even respond to my upshift request that time. So it's the same kind of experience you get in this 8-speed automatic previously. It's not sporty as far as the shifting goes, unfortunately. Now the 8-speed is unique here to this F Sport version. If you go for the 500, you have a 6-speed automatic, and I'll be testing that out here in a couple of minutes. But this 8-speed, otherwise, you do get across the board on all other 350s as far as the regular gas version goes. The hybrid does run an ECT. This engine should be a little bit more fuel efficient as well compared to the old V6. So it's rated at 24 mpg combined. And so, a good improvement, I believe, over the V6. And so that'll be nice. In practice, we'll see, sometimes turbo engines can be a little more thirsty than naturally aspirated engines. But, it should be a nice improvement there as far as that goes. But of course, you do have the options of the regular hybrid, the plug-in hybrid as well, if you do want to have, better fuel economy than when you get here in the 350. One nice thing about the RXs is that they have lost weight. So in addition to having the more spread out wheelbase that's longer and the wider track, which should also help with handling, you also do have up to 198 pounds of weight loss here for the new RXs. Now this 350 as it sits is about 4,310 pounds, which I believe is about 70 or so pounds dropped from the previous generation. And so, that should certainly help with handling. But what I've noticed, I did spend a week with a regular RX for the old previous generation version with the F Sport package on it, and what I can say is that this certainly feels a lot tighter. And I also have to add that even on this slightly rougher road we're on now, I mean, you get a little bit of road noise, but it's really nice and pretty quiet in here, and does a really good job of, again, just feeling luxurious. Even again with these adaptive dampers in their stiffer setting, you can totally drive around sport mode all the time. It certainly wouldn't beat you up or anything. And now hustling it on this tighter back road here, it's really dynamic and feels so much better than the previous generation RX in my opinion. I mean, it's just a lot tighter. Just feels like there's way less body motions, especially here, this F Sport handling version with these adaptive dampers. It certainly helps. And but even these all-season tires, I think, do a really good job of giving you a good amount of grip. Considering they're not sporty tires, really, you can't get sportier Michelin Pilot Sport 4 SUV tires on the 500. And I'll touch more on that in a minute. But on this very fun, windy road, I mean, this thing really keeps up nicely. Again, considering the setup and the fact that it still is trying to blend both the luxury and the performance. I think they did a really nice job with the tuning, but it still glides over all these bumps very nicely. But I'm actually having a good time here in this. I think it gives me confidence. The steering is really nice and precise and nicely weighted, especially here again in the sport mode. And it's a vehicle that, I usually don't like pushing, SUVs like this very much, but this one actually is really fun to push. I think the only SUV that still feels a little more dynamic than this, that this kind of competes with, is the Acura RDX, which I know is slightly smaller. Maybe this competes more with the MDX. Both the RDX and the MDX, in my opinion, still are a little more dynamic with their true torque vector and all-wheel drive. But aside from those, I'd say that this is probably my favorite as far as handling goes currently. It really feels nice, and again, this is just the regular 350 version, which does have the performance focus here with the F Sport handling package, but I'm very curious to try out the 500H F Sport performance. So let's go try that out and see how that does. Alright, so now I'm in the 500H F Sport performance version, and so we're going to go ahead and put it up into the sport mode here, and let's see how this one accelerates with its much more aggressive setup here, and the hybrid component as well. But here we go, turn it on to this back road, see how it does. Here we go. Wow, alright, definitely a little more responsive. Pulls very, very nicely. Good, strong performance. So this takes that same 2.4 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, then adds on electric motors front and rear. It has a more powerful rear e-axle than any other previous Lexus or Toyota product, and so it gives you a good amount of horsepower over a regular 350. So you have now 366 horsepower in this setup, 406 pound-feet of torque, and then it will drop your 0 to 60 from that 7.2 seconds of the 350 down to now 5.9 seconds 0 to 60 time here for this version. And so it runs to a 6-speed automatic transmission, by the way, as well. We'll try out some manual shifts here. Okay, third gear. Still, it's like I'm upshifting and it's not even responding. I wish the manual shifting was more responsive, especially in something that is supposed to be performance oriented. I wish this was a little quicker. Downshifts are still fine. It's just the upshifts where it really just kind of has a mind of its own and does whatever it feels like doing, which isn't great. But anyway, aside from that, it's still a good amount of power, and typically with these automatics, it's better just to leave them to do their own thing anyway. Another acceleration here. Wow, okay, I really like how that electric motor in the back definitely gives you a little bit of extra zip right off the line and some initial punch before the engine, comes on full steam and, continues on with the rest of the, acceleration here. And it's really a sporty setup. So it's the direct 4 all-wheel drive system here is what they're calling this, which will be the same branding as the RZ and that fully electric all-wheel drive system. But clearly this is, a little bit different. But it has the same more powerful rear electric motor and then the gas engine powering the front here. And it's punchy though, and it's actually very impressive with the amount of torque. Typically, we'll be a 70% front, 30% rear torque split, but it can go all the way up to 80% of the available torque going to the rear. So a very rear bias setup, and I'm going to be testing that out here on some windy roads. But it also just means that whenever you do have power transfer and stuff under acceleration, that back motor is going to really kick in and keep things, nice and level, but really, slingshot you forward there with that rear E-motor. And so it's a pretty cool setup. And whenever you want to slow all this power down, you do have stronger 6-piston front brakes here on the 500s. And so that definitely, gives you a little bit of extra confidence as well to slow all that power down and the extra mass down as well. So these do weigh a good bit more. So curb weight for one of these is about 4,750 pounds. versus, you know, the 4,300 pounds or so of a regular 350 F Sport handling package, which I guess is why it's appropriate that that's the handling F Sport and this is performance F Sport, more about straight line performance, but this does have very dynamic handling capabilities too, which I'll touch on in a second. But, you know, it's just nice you have the beefier brakes here considering you're hauling around, you know, an extra 450 pounds or so here in this. You know, it definitely feels good. And it's also a nice firm brake pedal, you know, even though this is a hybrid, you know, I don't really feel too much like weirdness from the brake pedal or anything. It feels pretty consistent and very easy to modulate so far. Also, you might be able to hear, but there is some active sound control that this vehicle does have, so it does pipe in a little bit through the speakers. That's only here in the 500s. The others do not do that. And I mean, I think it sounds fine. It's not, it doesn't sound artificial. I honestly, if you didn't tell me that it had it, I probably wouldn't have even paid attention to it. So, going on some corners here, and I have high hopes for the 500 version, because yes, even though it is a little bit heavier, you know, you still do have the Michelin Pilot Sport 4 SUV tires. You also, again, have the wider track here, the longer wheelbase, and all those things, you know, like I said, I appreciated in the regular 350s, but, you know, having that, all that stuff here in this, plus the rearwheel steering, which you only get here in the 500h F Sport Performance. That rearwheel steer can do, I believe, about 4 degrees of steering back there, and should really help this to, you know, be even more dynamic. I really love rearwheel steering in basically every application that I've seen it in. It's always makes for a better driving experience. So we're going to come to some tighter corners here and test it out a little bit. Interestingly, though, in the 500 here, steering seems to be a little bit lighter than it was in the 350. I'm not sure why that is, but I'm just noticing that here. And also, you know, this has the adaptive dampers just like the 350. And here in this way they're tuned, you know, still nice and tight, and does a really good job of, you know, controlling the body motions. You don't really have hardly any brake dive, and even with the extra thrust from this engine, you know, it doesn't really shift around too much. But here's a nice tight corner. All right, it's pretty good. There's a little bit of a little dip there and a little rise in the hill there, and it got stuck, you know, pretty well, I have to say. And this thing feels really dynamic. I'm pretty impressed. You know, I could definitely feel the weight in that corner for sure, a little bit more than I think I felt it obviously in the 350. So you do feel the extra weight here, but it certainly, you know, makes up for that and then some, you know, with the rearwheel steer. And just this thing feels so dynamic. It really is so impressive. And you know, if you're someone who, you know, likes, for example, the dynamic qualities of the RDX or the MDX, but you're looking for more power, just go for this. And I mean, the tires do have a good amount of grip. There's a nice improvement in grip over the regular all seasons on the 350 for sure. But it's still, you still aren't gonna, you know, forget that you're in an SUV and one that weighs, you know, 4,750. There's definitely some mass here. There's some limits for sure. Obviously, this is an RX, so I can't review this like a sports car. But for what it is, it's very engaging, very fun, dynamic, and totally can keep up with me here on a back road, as long as I'm mindful, again, of the weight and stuff. And the tires are protesting a tiny bit, but they're doing a really good job. And yeah, I'm having a blast with this thing, which, I mean, compared to the old generation RX, again, like I mentioned earlier, that just had a lot more body motions, it's a lot softer. This thing is so tight and a lot more car-like in its handling, in the best way. But I mean, I'm just slicing and dicing this little windy road up, no problem, and it's keeping up with me. You know, some good speeds here, and really doing a good job of you know, just hanging with me here. So I really do like this. It's a great setup. And I also have to add that, you know, even though this does use a 6-speed automatic, I'm noticing that power delivery seems just as strong as it did in the 350 as far as that turbo engine whenever that kicks on, just because those electric motors really, you know, fill in any kind of gap that you might have here with the 6-speed versus the 8 and the other. You know, I'm not noticing the 6-speed detracting from the experience at all. I know a lot of people were a little bit surprised when they saw the 6-speed on the spec sheet here for this version, but it's perfectly suited for this application. Again, if it had faster shifts, I'd have no complaints with it whatsoever. But even with the slower manual shifts, it's still, you know, does a really great job. Quick downshifts, I mean, very responsive. The second I start tipping into the gas, it starts, you know, giving me some strong acceleration, and this motor, you know, being nice and punchy means that, you know, even though there's 6 gears instead of 8, it really does a good job still pulling nice and hard. One other interesting touch is whenever you're in sport mode there, it really doesn't act like a hybrid very much, at least as far as like kicking the engine engine off, it keeps the engine on, at least in my experience here, and you know, is always right there ready and waiting. So don't worry about this being a hybrid and trying to constantly hypermile. In sport mode, it's all about performance and doesn't care about any kind of economical behavior. But then whenever you go into the normal mode here now, I do have the engine off here, and it's, you know, doing a little bit of charging when I'm going down hills, and it will, you know, kick on that gas engine when it needs to, and it still is, you know, pretty responsive even in this mode. And in normal mode here too, also, you know, a little bit of a softer damper setup now, just for kicks. I mean, it's still, yeah, there's a little bit of extra float there, so the adaptive dampers do certainly help. I'm noticing that here right off the bat. Is normal mode still is a little bit floaty, but you know, still again miles better than the old RX. Anyway, a ton of fun on a back road here in the 500h F Sport Performance. All right, so now I'm able to spend just a couple of minutes here in the 450h Plus plug-in hybrid version of the RX here, which will be available later on in the model year here. So it's not going to be available here in the initial rollout here, you know, with the other three powertrains. But whenever it does arrive, it'll most likely have a very similar setup to the NX. We don't actually have any specific specs yet for it, but in the NX, I already spent a week with the NX 450h Plus, and in that, you know, it's the same naturally aspirated 2.5 liter, same setup we have here in this. And in the NX, it makes about 300 horsepower and does, you know, about 33 miles of range or so. It'll probably be very similar here for the RX, but of course the specs could change for the RX. It could be different tuning, I don't know. And this one's actually a European spec as well, so we have our mileage rating here in kilometers, saying 19 kilometers here, with the battery a little bit over a half charge. So not sure exactly where it'll end up as far as actual, you know, quoted range and all of that, but just cruising through this winery here at low speed, you know, which is really the strength of the plug-in hybrid, you know, is especially the low speed stuff. I'm cruising around here just in electric mode, and it's nice and quiet. Brake still feels nice and normal here, even, you know, with the plug-in hybrid. No weirdness or anything going on. But I'm gonna go ahead and put it up into the sport mode. It still does have a sport mode here for the 450h Plus, and let's turn on this back road and see how a plug-in hybrid version does. Here we go. All right. Nice, strong performance. Honestly, off the line, it feels almost as punchy as the 500h version does. So, I mean, nice, strong electric motor, and yeah, I really like the plug-in hybrid setup in the NX. Also, the RAV4 Prime uses it. It's a real punchy electric motor that you can actually do, you know, full-speed highway merges in. It's enough power to drive it like a fully electric vehicle. And here in this, still nice and punchy. Doesn't even need to turn on the gas engine here, even for like half throttle, giving you some good acceleration still for passing and stuff like that. It still can do all of that. And so I think I really love the way Toyota and Lexus do their plug-in hybrid, because it's not just there for, you know, some weak acceleration. It really gives you strong performance, so you truly can't drive this like an electric vehicle. If you plug it in and you drive less than the quoted range every day, you know, you really could basically treat this as an electric vehicle. So if you're bummed there isn't a fully electric Lexus RX yet, this is going to be as close as you're going to get for now, and I think that really, you know, makes it a really great, you know, alternative though for people who do want that electrified component, but you still have the gas engine to back you up, so you can keep on driving as long as you need to. I'm not going to be able to do as much of the handling testing like I have been in the other RXs here today, but from what I can tell here so far, you know, it's definitely going to be a little on the softer side. This isn't an F Sport or anything. This is just a regular RX. So, you know, that means it's not going to have the same sportier suspension setup. I don't believe you can get the adaptive dampers here in the plug-in hybrid either. But yeah, it's really a solid amount of performance, and I'm really excited to try out this a little bit more in depth for a little bit longer here in the future, because I think potentially this could be kind of the sweet spot of the range, where you have more punch than the other RXs aside from the 500, but you know, you have the electric range, which you don't get in the 500, and obviously this is going to be less dynamic from a handling standpoint, but if you're looking for just good straight line performance. All right, so now we're in the 350h hybrid version, and I'm going to put it into its sport mode. I'm going to test out the acceleration here in this one. All right, still had enough power to spin the tires there for a split second. And gets up and goes really nicely. It's a good amount of power. So the hybrid is less powerful than it was for the previous generation, which was a 450h hybrid previously. So now it's the 350h hybrid, and it does 246 horsepower, 233 pound-feet of torque from a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. And so because it's a naturally aspirated engine, that means this one you can use regular you know, gas in. So if you don't want to do the premium like the others, you know, you can at least have the regular gas here. And this, of course, will be the best one from a fuel economy standpoint. point, getting 33 mpg combined, which is really impressive for a vehicle that's the class and size of vehicle this is, and the weight involved with these. It's pretty good. And it's solid performance too. It's still a 7.4 seconds 0 to 60, which is totally fine for an average family crossover, and that's still only 0.2 seconds slower than the turbocharged 350. So pretty solid acceleration, and so I'm sure it'll be totally fine for the average commuter and someone who doesn't need a fast RX. As far as curb weight goes for this one, it's also impressive that they have saved some weight here with the hybrid version as well. So it's only about 150 pounds heavier than the 350, the regular 350 version. That is one important thing with this, is that it only has an e-motor for all-wheel drive in the rear there. So it's dependent on that electric propulsion for the all-wheel drive system. There is no drive shaft going back there, but they always make sure that they keep enough power in the battery so you always have all-wheel drive when you need it. So you're never going to find yourself in the middle of winter with a low hybrid battery and being stuck with front-wheel drive or something. It'll make sure that it keeps it topped off so that you always have four-wheel. Having the sport mode certainly helps with the responsiveness and all that, and you still have, again, an all-wheel drive system that, even though it doesn't do any kind of torque vectoring or anything, you at least do still have a little bit of power going to the rear there to help things be a little more neutral. So I mean, obviously it's a nice, soft, smooth ride here, and it feels very appropriate, for an electric vehicle, and pretty nice and quiet even on this rougher road here. Very well isolated, I'd say, from
If you want to, you could. Matter of fact, let me show you how it looks if you install all of the accessories. All right, so that's how you install all of the accessories. All right, let me grab a phone. We'll pair these up, and I'll do a little sound test. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, y'all, so we back in. Now, dim the lights a little bit so we can see the RGBs more clearly. And as far as the pairing process, real simple. Once you power up the speaker, it'll automatically be in Bluetooth pairing mode. Go to your phone's Bluetooth menu and select the Mars Pro. All right, so let's try out some music. Now, if you notice, you do have touch capacitive. Let's get max volume. Okay, here we go. Look at that bass. RGBs everywhere. Oh, this speaker sounds great. All right, so let's try another song. All right, so now let's try the Shark 14. Look at all the RGB lights. everywhere. Dope. Okay, there's your volume control. Turn it down. All the way up. Let's get max volume. I like this one. Let's see, let's try to fold up the legs. Rest it like this. This is crazy. All right, let me hit pause. Now, let's pair two of these together and see how they sound. All right, so I got two of these paired together. Now let's test them out. Now, to connect true wireless stereo, it's real simple. You're just going to hold the Bluetooth button down on both speakers for 3 seconds. Then you're going to see the light start flashing. Single click the main speaker, double click the second speaker, and it'll automatically connect. Just that simple. All right, here we go. Feel that bass is crazy. Let's go. All right.
One of my favorite games in general, and a game that I still play to this day. Now, Star Trek Starfleet Command 3 is a starship simulation game. Essentially, you actually control a starship in just about every way imaginable. You can manage its power, you can launch shuttles, you can conduct scans, you can actually use transporters. Any number of things can be done with this ship, and it is awesome. You actually can finally feel like a legitimate Starfleet captain. Now, this game has been distinctly improved from Starfleet Command 2 and 1 in that the interface has been greatly simplified and streamlined. And that's not bad, because fighting the interface is never fun. Now, the game has a variety of game modes. You can play skirmish, where you can fight against enemy space stations. You can just do a free-for-all, where you can just fight against random ships. And you can do campaign. Now, the campaign is, in a word, excellent. Why? Because the narrator for the campaign is none other than Patrick Stewart, who does a great job. Essentially, the story for this game is, it's been many years since Voyager actually returned. Ugh, glad that's over with. And the Klingons and Federation are settling into an era of peace, and they build Unity Space Station and everything. Too bad, when you start the very first mission, it turns out that Unity Space Station has been destroyed. And the very first mission has you squaring off against another Federation starship. As you can see, the combat is really quite slow-paced. It's exactly what you would expect from a legitimate battle between opposing ships. It's not like a quick and easy starfighter battle at all. It is slow, it is methodical, and you'd better be planning out what to do. Now, how you actually implement plans is you just sort of orbit this ship and wait for your weapons to charge. But it's a bit more to it than that. You have to think about launching shuttles, dropping mines, and managing your power so you can actually get your weapons to charge faster. But if you make your weapons charge faster, then your shield is the definitive Star Trek experience. Star Trek Online. But for now, this is John, wishing you good Star Trek Armada, Star Trek Armada 2, or whatever makes you happy.
Recognize the admission of Finland and Sweden to NATO, because we all know that, looking from an historical perspective, NATO members have brought their national issues to the...
A lot more. The 2005 Chevrolet Corvette C6 in Chevy speak is completely reworked from the ground up. But that doesn't mean an altogether new formula for success. Like its C5 predecessor, the C6 is built on a hydroformed steel frame with an aluminum cockpit structure and composite floor panels. But the new chassis is both stiffer and lighter, and longer, with 1.2 inches of added wheelbase. The suspension, a double wishbone design with composite leaf springs, is also a familiar design, but every piece is new with more wheel travel. In addition to the base package, suspension choices include our test car's magnetic selective ride control and the more aggressive Z51 package. The C6 is clad in an all-new body that is actually 5.1 inches shorter than before. The skin is still fiberglass, but with a leaner, more sophisticated look, especially in the nose with its fixed xenon high-intensity headlights, the first exposed lights on a Vette since 1962. And out back, where a leaner, more sculpted tail flows down to beefy quad exhaust tips. As one staffer put it, they finally got the rear end right. Wheels are 18 inches up front, 19 inches in the rear, and wear Goodyear Eagle run-flat tires with tire pressure monitoring. All 2005 Corvette coupes feature a removable roof panel for open-air motoring. But if you're a dedicated soft-top fan, there's the Corvette Convertible. It offers a choice of manual or power tops, both of which fold away beneath a hard tonneau cover. The Vette is powered by the new 6-liter LS2 version of Chevy's small block pushrod V8 engine. Its 400 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque were achieved by revamping everything from intake to clutch and bolting on either Tremec's new T56 6-speed manual transmission or GM's latest Hydra-Matic 4-speed automatic. Both are rear-mounted and drive beefy Getrag axles. Hit the gas hard and you will light up the tires. A careful balance of clutch and accelerator is required for a clean launch. Get it right, and a 0 to 60 time of 4.8 seconds becomes routine, and 13.2 seconds at 112 miles per hour is a sterling quarter mile. Once off the line, the bored-out V8 delivers gobs of torque all across the rev band. The tranny's ratios are also perfectly matched to engine output with shorter, easier throws than before. While the chassis and suspension are well suited to any corner you choose to attack, the new Vette flows through turns with less of the point-and-shoot feel of its predecessors. It rewards a smooth touch on throttle and steering, only pushing the front or breaking loose out back if your transitions are too abrupt. The speed-sensitive magnetic rack and pinion steering lacks feel compared to less exotic designs, but is quicker and more responsive if a little nervous. Still, the overall feel is remarkably neutral with less roll than the C5. Both the magnetic ride control and the standard stability system are seamless in operation and, more importantly, not intrusive. Braking is by way of big disc all around with standard ABS and new cooling ducts. They pull the C6 down from 60 in an average of 120 feet. Like the steering, the brakes lack feedback but are very progressive, and stability is top-notch. It rides well too. Even when set in sport mode, the ride is firm but without the harshness over broken pavement of earlier versions. And there were no squeaks and rattles in our very early production car. You pop inside the new Corvette by squeezing an electric door latch. This opens up a dual cockpit interior that will surprise longtime Vette owners with its high-quality trim and excellent fit and finish. Finally! The comfy body-hugging sports seats with adjustable side bolsters and back support are superior to any Corvette seats before. But many will also be surprised by new additions like seat heaters, push-button start with proximity key, a head-up display with 3 modes, 1 for the street and 2 for the track, and big-screen DVD navigation. The coupe's cargo space remains healthy at 22.4 cubic feet, encouraging you to hit the highway and burn some gas, which is not as irresponsible as it sounds. EPA mileage estimates for the 2005 Corvette are 19 city and 28 highway with the manual transmission. Expect to find 23 miles per gallon on a mixed driving loop. And the pricing numbers are just as appealing. The Corvette Coupe carries a base price of $44,245. That's $390 less than last year. The Corvette Convertible goes for $52,245, an increase of only $610. With a lot more of everything from performance to comfort, the 2005 Chevrolet Corvette now offers not only speed, style, and refinement, but even more thrills, chills, and high-end sports car value than ever before. While each generation Corvette has been a huge improvement over the one before, the new C6 really is the Vette we've all been hoping for.
ECOWAS is taking a really firm stance, for the first time.
Platform of the alliance whenever any particular topic came to the agenda.
Let's to thank one of our sponsors, Farmers Insurance.
I've seen this movie before.
You have?
Sure. This is the part where all is lost and the hero searches for hope. Then a mysterious figure reminds her that she has the Farmer's Home Policy Perk guaranteed replacement cost, and that her home will be rebuilt regardless of her limits or if the cost of materials has gone up.
That's really something.
Get a whole lot of something with Farmer's Policy Perks. Wait, I didn't ruin the ending, did I?
Yeah, you did.
We are farmers, bum 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 bum.